You know, we really thought we had a handle on the absolute limits of life. But what if I told you that a tiny, single-celled organism just came along and completely shattered what we thought we knew? Get ready, because we're about to talk about how life is thriving in conditions we used to think were totally impossible. So let's start with a really basic question. We all know that things get dicey for life when it gets too hot, right? But what is that hard and fast limit? What's the absolute maximum temperature where complex cells, the kind that make up you, me, plants, animals, everything, just give up? Well, for decades, the scientific community had a pretty firm answer: 60 degrees Celsius. That's 140 Fahrenheit. That was the line in the sand. Any eukaryote, anything with a complex cell, was supposed to literally cook at that temperature. The internal machinery just falls apart. End of story. Yeah, about that. It's time to rewrite the textbooks. That hard limit? It's been broken. The new record for a complex organism to actually grow and divide is now a blistering 63 degrees Celsius. Now, a 3-degree jump might not sound like a huge deal, but in biology, oh, that's a massive leap. So, who's our little record breaker? Allow me to introduce you to the star of our show, Incendiamo Abiba Cascade Dances. And that name is just perfect. It basically means fire amoeba from the Cascade Mountains. So get this little guy doesn't just tolerate the heat, it absolutely thrives in it. Its happy place, its ideal temperature for just living its best life, is between 55 and 57 degrees Celsius. That's just a few degrees shy of that old impossible limit. You can find it hanging out in geothermal springs, just munching on bacteria that also enjoy the hot water lifestyle. And the fire amoeba is a pretty clever survivor too. It's got this amazing two-shaped strategy for getting around. When it needs to travel somewhere fast, it stretches out into this long, worm-like shape. But when it's time to slow down, explore, and look for food, it shifts back into that classic blob shape we all know. And it flips between these two modes about every 90 seconds or so, which is a brilliant way to balance covering ground and actually finding a meal. So, this is the big question, right? How does it do it? What's the secret sauce inside this tiny cell that lets it handle temperatures that would literally melt the proteins of most other living things? Well, the answer, of course, is in its genes. To really get it, we have to talk about something called proteostasis. It's a bit of a mouthful, but think of it like this. It's the cell's internal quality control crew. Your proteins are the tiny machines doing all the work, but heat makes them unfold and break. Proteostasis is the system that keeps them folded, fixes them, and gets rid of them if they're damaged beyond repair. And to live in extreme heat, your crew has to be the best of the best. And here's our first big clue. Check this out. Researchers compared the melting point of the fire amoeba's proteins to its closest relative, which does not like the heat. And the difference is huge. The fire amoeba's proteins are just built tougher. They're naturally more stable, with an average melting point a full 4 degrees higher than its cousins. But that built-in toughness is just one part of a killer three-pronged strategy. First, it has reinforced defenses. It's packed with chaperone molecules that are like bodyguards for other proteins. Second, it has a super efficient cleanup crew that can quickly tag and recycle any broken parts. And third, it's got an ultra-fast alert system that senses heat stress and lets the cell react in an instant. It's just a perfectly evolved little survival machine. Okay, so this is way more than just a neat fact about a weird amoeba. The fact that Incendiamo Abiba even exists makes us ask some really big questions about the rules of life itself, not just here, but everywhere. I mean, it's pretty simple. This discovery changes the rules. That boundary for complex life was drawn at 60 degrees, and this little organism just proved that the line was in the wrong place. It shows us that eukaryotes, creatures with the same basic cell setup as us, are way more resilient than we ever imagined. And the first place that has an impact is right here on Earth. All of a sudden, we have to expand our definition of a habitable zone. All those places we might have written off as too hot for anything but the simplest bacteria, well, they might actually be home to complex life. And you know where this is going. That takes us to space. When we're looking for life on other planets, we're using Earth as our only blueprint. We look for conditions that we know support life. By shoving that temperature limit higher, this amoeba is telling astrobiologists, hey, you might need to broaden your search. Planets and moons that seemed too hostile might actually be worth a second look. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves said it perfectly. They said this has, quote, profound implications for the evolutionary constraints on eukaryotic cells and the search for life elsewhere. It's just this incredible reminder that life is unbelievably tough, and we're still just scratching the surface of what it can do. So I'll just leave you with this. For half a century, we drew a line in the sand. We thought we knew the absolute thermal limit for complex life. We were wrong. And if an organism with a nucleus and all the complex bits can thrive in water this hot, you just have to wonder, where else is life hiding, just waiting for us to find it?